Hi, welcome into the Blueprint. We hope you guys had a happy new year and a great holiday season. Unfortunately, the Michigan Wolverines fell short in the Citrus Bowl against Texas. But, Dev, I kind of did want to start there. First off, I think there's a lot of people that owe Biff Poggi an apology because the team came out inspired.
Yeah.
They stuck together. We have more information now. Got a lot of respect for Wink Martindale. I know the defense didn't show up. But there was minimal opt-outs relative to a lot of the major teams in college football. So I think Biff was playing chess, not checkers. In my opinion, I thought the team played hard and inspired, and that says a lot about the continuity during a tough time. And I also wanted to apologize, Dev, because I sent out a tweet. I said, man, I said all that, and then I said, Bryce Underwood's playing a pretty solid game. And then as soon as I hit send, the interception started pouring on. I'm like, man, should I delete this
Yeah.
tweet? And then I remembered what you said. No, don't just there's going to be angry people on Twitter regardless. So I left it up, but I did want to apologize for jinxing everybody. Just want to get your thoughts, man. Any takeaways from the game? Do you think it even matters? Does it carry much weight in your
You're
mind?
absolutely right how it's your fault. Like, that game was going so good until you did that.
It
So
was.
the announcer's jinx is alive and well, and you don't have to be actually
Literally,
calling the game.
literally.
You could just be at home
Yeah.
or wherever you are, tweet it, and the snowball begins to roll. But all the things you said, I agree with. They did look inspired, especially when they're shorthanded, right? And people are yelling, "Oh, the defense this, defense that." Come on, guys. You're missing your most electrifying pass rushers that you've had all year, which they shouldn't play, in my opinion. I don't think Derek Moore should play. He's done everything he's needed to do. He has a ton of film. There's no need for him to play in that game. That essentially means nothing. Not even playing for the coach that he will have, right? You know what I mean? There's really nothing for him to gain. He did everything he could for Michigan. Players like that, and Barham, right? Obviously, he didn't initially come to University of Michigan, but he became a Michigan man through being here and giving it his all. There's nothing really to gain. And when you don't have those two pieces defensively, you can't expect much, especially against a team like Texas where Arch Manning, as you can see, I talked about it on the Texas show, on the Stampede, and I've talked to our listeners about it, of course, that he started off not so great. And when you don't start off great, when people expect so much of you, you get to live in obscurity after that. And he was able to live in obscurity, continue to organically grow, develop, learn, and we kind of got the brunt of that. Like, we met him at the wrong time, essentially. He looked incredible. He looked really, really good. And he's only going to get better, and we're going to have to see him coming up here very soon. So we got a lot to do on the defensive side of the ball because he's only going to be a better player than he was this season. And for Bryce, we're going to talk about a lot of things that have happened that are I think, going to really, really help Bryce in his development. And in that game, again, it was basically a microcosm of the entire season, right? You saw flashes, right?
Yeah.
But it felt like, again, just didn't deal with success well. And once you have some success, and that's the thing for a lot of people. We've had teammates, we've had people like hard workers, all these different things, and then as soon as they get an ounce of success, they don't truly know how to deal with it, right? And they begin to think it's all them, and I don't have to do all the things that I had to do. And not saying that this is Bryce, but this is just something that happens, right? When you start to have success, you don't always do all the things you did to get you there, right? And as much as people listening are probably thinking, that's ridiculous. If you did all these things and it was a clear path to how you got your success, why wouldn't you keep doing it? Well, some people get satisfied, no matter, it's a lot of different reasons as to why, but that's just a human thing. That's what happens when you have success sometimes, if you haven't been taught to deal with it, or you just don't know how to deal with it. And so, Bryce has some success early, and you can start to see the looseness begin with the footwork and the reading of the defense and all these different things. Had some success in situations where he probably shouldn't have, right? Because the defense didn't make a play, and it's like, okay, I hope we're getting to the sideline again. We've talked about it all year. This isn't like, oh, Devin's just saying that because of what happened. No, Devin's been saying this from the beginning of the season. I hope that we get to the sideline and say, hey, good play. The process is not there. You got a retreat corner. We shouldn't be trying to throw a go, and especially if a guy gets behind him, we shouldn't be throwing back shoulders. Different things like that. And I don't know if that was the case. And as the game went on, you could see it just start to unravel. And it feels like, to me, at this stage of Bryce's career, one mistake always begets another mistake and another mistake. And I think the challenge for this new staff is to not only the footwork and the fundamentals and all those different things, all the details, but understanding that we cannot have one mistake, because he's going to have mistakes. I don't care how good you are. You're going to make mistakes. You can't allow one mistake to become 5 mistakes, right? And that's what happened in that game, right? One mistake, right?
Yeah.
One big mistake. It was big, but it became many, many more mistakes. And it's almost – and if you're a competitor, you can understand the next thing I want to say. When you make a mistake, a competitor has to make up for it, right? You have to atone for it. And that puts you in a different headspace that is not conducive to success, right? It puts you in that, I got to make it happen. I'm going to force it to happen, come hell or high water. And that usually leads to mistakes, right? The receiver that drops one pass and then he's like, I got to make a play. So now he's trying to do more with the ball than he should. And then he fumbles the ball, right? And for Bryce, it just was the snowball started to pick up some steam and it started to roll and you just saw it unravel. So the game meant nothing. The one thing we wanted to see was improvement from Bryce. We didn't see that. But you have a huge opportunity this spring and going into the summer to make sure that you shore up a lot of the things that you saw wrong this past season.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, and we'll get into the bigger picture transfer portal news and staff news, and that'll be the theme we hit this entire offseason. But the big news is Bryce Underwood is coming back. He's going to be back at Michigan going forward. And I think that's important for 2 reasons. One, I look at Cignetti as an example where he now got another great transfer portal quarterback. Why? Because every quarterback that has put their belief in Cignetti has found success, and his word is as solid as gold. The issue is if you bring in a 5-star with Bryce Underwood and he doesn't reach his potential, it's going to be much harder to get that next 5-star. So for Whittingham and his staff, this offseason is extremely important to get Bryce to realize his full potential. The next great quarterback is going to be that much easier. But you hit on some really key points here. And I've been thinking about it, and I'm interested to get your opinion from a quarterback standpoint on how Bryce improves. Because I thought about it from a tight end perspective. When I make a mistake, if I drop a pass, am I thinking the next time, how do I correct the mistake? Do I say the next time I have to catch it, break 10 tackles and score an 80-yard touchdown? Actually, no. It comes back to the exact opposite. I need to focus on the very smallest thing that leads to success. Tight hands, see the ball in, catch, tuck. It's not overcompensating. It's going back to the fundamental level. That's what we saw against Texas. That's what we've seen all season is as the game goes on, the fundamentals get lost with Bryce. So here's what I wanted to ask you. I made the biggest jump in my career as a tight end going from my sophomore year to my junior year. Jim Harbaugh was hired. Jay Harbaugh pulled me into his office and he said, man, you do a lot of great things. But when you look at the best tight ends, their contested catch percentage is above 60%. And I was like mid 40s at that springtime. So I wrote out a plan. I said, hey, I got to be better at contested catches. I wasn't just going to catch jugs. I wasn't just going to check a box and get to 100. I was going to catch jugs with someone, a partner, trying to push me and pull me and bat the ball down and grab my hands and interfere with me. I wanted to practice contested catches. I was going to do the same with tennis balls. I knew I needed to be a better blocker. I wanted to focus on my very first step, my weight distribution and my stance. And it's putting pen on paper saying, here is my goals of where I need to improve, X, Y, Z. Here's how I'm going to improve, X, Y, Z. Here's how I'm going to measure improvement, X, Y, Z. That intention led to significant growth in my career. I'm curious, as a quarterback, what does that look like for Bryce? Like if you break it down in your most fundamental level for Bryce, like we know he needs to get better. He just needs to get better. But how?
It's so intricate for quarterbacks just because and for Bryce specifically, that's what we're talking about, right? So let's just break it down from the beginning, right? Has to understand coverage first, right? So the physical things, we can't really attack them as much as we want. And this is perfect because the wintertime is when you can do all the coverage, the things that have nothing really to do with your body. It's all about your brain, right? And so understanding what a coverage is, right? What is the basics of it? Cover 2. Okay, both safeties, and this will feel elementary, but you start to build on this, and that if you don't understand the elementary version of coverages or anything in that for that matter, there's no way you can get to the calculus version of it. Everybody understand this, right? So you got.
I want to ask you something on that too, though. Just is it not just cover 2? Like it's not just having Bryce draw cover 2. Should he know
See,
Why is
that's
a
where I'm going
defense
to next,
calling
right? So
cover
you
two?
elementary,
Okay.
you understand the safeties have halves and the corners have the flats, right? The next level, how I teach it to 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 5-year-olds is if it's first down, just so you can start to think like a football player. If it's first down and it's cover two, what should we be thinking? Right? And the answer should be we should be running the football. Right. So now this has nothing to do with playing quarterback, drop back passing, all these. This is how do I think as a football player and understand a coverage and what it's designed to do? How does it attack me? The one thing I need to do is run the football because they got two guys displaced from the box and we have the numbers in most cases. I mean, most all cases, I would imagine, right? And so then you go to, okay, now it's not. It's a normal down and distance, or maybe we just called a pass play on first down. What are the strengths of this coverage, right? Where they got two guys high, they got the covered flats. You know, it's hard to get those quick throws, things that we like to do, right? Okay, well, where are their weaknesses? And where do you want to attack? And I always start with the middle is first, right? The middle.
You've said that
I've said it
100 times
way
this
too
season.
much. I feel like it feel like somebody needs to listen.
The viewers better be able to identify
I
cover
swear,
two
if we
by now.
roll one of these subscribers out versus cover two, they better throw a completion, especially if we got all go called and we got a guy bending through the middle, number 88, Jake. They better throw a completion. But where are the weaknesses, right? So, okay, you got the middle. That's where you want to attack. And then the next weakness you want to get to is those outside hole shots, right? So you got the middle, you got the hole shots, right? And so that's how I would start it, right? Okay, the embryonic stages. Then you can start to get into Tampa 2 and what we could do there and all those different things. But like start at the embryonic stage of what coverage is, right? Cover 3. What are we trying to do? Obviously, the flats are open. We want to get to the seams as well. And I think if you do that, now as you get that good understanding of coverage, now we can start to get to the play and why are we running this play? Does this play have answers for me versus whatever coverage it is? Is it a pure progression play, right? Once we understand the play and the why versus whatever coverage we're going to have it against, then we need to understand what are my feet and eyes doing on this play? What does this play suggest? You know? And so now, if you do that and you're diligent in that through the winter, and by the time you get to the spring, there should be a lot less thinking, and now the talent can shine through. Right? A lot less thinking, and now the talent can shine through. And another thing that Bryce has to work on is the ability to continue throughout a game and continue to have the same focus. In the openers, we've seen him have great focus. We've seen him recognize. It seems like he recognized coverage, right? So you look and you say, well, there could be two options, right? He recognizes coverage early, and then he starts to lose his fundamentals late. Or the coaches are doing a great job of understanding what coverages are going to come, and they allow him to have plays that dictate he gets to that area of the field, if that makes sense, right? So whatever it is, it needs to be fixed. Because once you're out of the openers, there has been a huge struggle and decline for Bryce in every single game. Even the games where he played well. It's just like, it's just a total difference. And that happens a bit from quarterbacks in any arena because, you know, like I know, those openers, we've prepped them a million times. Everybody knows what's going to happen. And the coaches usually do a pretty good job of understanding what they're going to get early in the game from the defense. And there's no real questions. There's no real thinking. Well, the goal is to get that way throughout the game. And if you can get to that point, I think it's going to be terrifying for teams to have to deal with a guy who can drop back and pass the ball down the field. And the key word there is pass, right? We know he can throw. Right, we want to see him pass the ball, right? And that's a very distinct difference, and we'll continue to outline that as this offseason goes on. But a guy that size that can then pass the ball and also be a game breaker as a runner, he's unstoppable. He should be, right? And in the next segment, I have a lot of things that are going to outline why I think he may be unstoppable, and this offensive staff will be able to help him, specifically offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. And if they can't help him, then he may just not be the guy.
Yeah. You know, I want to keep going back to Cignetti because I'm fascinated by the story. Honestly, they're the kings of college football right now. And he's had quarterback success, so it applies to this scenario. But we all laugh when we see Cignetti in the fourth quarter looking pissed. You're beating Alabama 35 points worse than they've been beaten 3 decades. Why are you mad? Because of a process and a standard. And to me, I look at, you know, with Bryce, the footwork is his feet are the fundamental just
Mhm.
from a tight end's viewpoint, Dev. Like why is he throwing the ball with both feet off the ground? Why are you not putting your cleats in and rotating? And he's got power and talent to get away with it
Yeah.
sometimes. But this
But when the
year
fire is
he
hot,
was allowed to get
when the
away
fire
with
is
it.
hot and you need it, and it's 3rd down or 4th down and the game's on the line, that's when it doesn't work because it's not a good process.
So for Coach Witt and this staff, it need a little Signetti here. Forget the cheer and incompletion that's done with good fundamentals more than a touchdown that's done with poor fundamentals. And I felt like this year that Michigan did the opposite in far too many situations.
I'm gonna be
But
honest.
I
They
mean,
cheer during everything. It's just always cheering. Cheering. High five, cheer. And like you said, there has to be a healthy dose of Signetti of why are we cheering? What's there to cheer about?
Yeah, because what's the expectation? Like Signetti said, what are we cheering about? We expect this is what we expected to do. We'll cheer when we win the national title because that was our ultimate goal. But until then,
a little more of Signetti and his quarterback success. It goes way back to when he first got started, right? And I feel like I've talked about this, but I mean, there's no reason why I won't say it again. When I met with him before his game, because I had them early, right? And everybody's looking at Indiana versus Old Dominion. Like, why was it so close, right? We're watching Indiana now beat Bama by 35. It's like, why were they so close to Old Dominion? Now, there are a couple big plays that happened on defense where Old Dominion did some things that kind of confused Indiana that were really cool things that get them big, fast touchdowns. But in my opinion, right, and I'm going to just be honest, he shared this opinion. Fernando Mendoza wasn't nearly good enough. And when I tell you I was terrified because I was one of the guys that thought, hey, this is repeatable by Signetti. I think he's going to be able to do it. And as I'm watching this film, I'm like, this guy sucks. I don't know what this Fernando Mendoza, he's supposed to be good. I don't know.
He did stink.
I'm just like, who is this guy? And it wasn't like, oh, he can't throw or whatever. It was just like all the things that people said about him as far as his mental fortitude and the ability to be on time and all the different things. It was the exact opposite against Old Dominion. Feet never in line. He looked like Bryce Underwood with less talent, I guess. Maybe you can say that. He looked like Bryce Underwood with less talent. Feet never in line. Feet never to the target. Eyes late. Feet late. Balls behind. Easy throws. Not there. It's supposed to be quick game. You're dropping. It's supposed to be a drop. You're quick game. It was such you can't say that on family TV. It was bad. I'll just say that. It was awful. And so
it's implied.
I really like Signetti because when I get in the meeting with him, I'm allowed to be transparent, right? And he doesn't take it as a personal attack on his offense or his coaching or whatever, right? Because he's comfortable in his skin, right? So I'm very transparent, like, hey, listen, this was awful, right? And how is this gonna work, right? Because when I look at your guys' the quarterback from a year ago, Rourke, that was the exact opposite. His feet were in line, all these different things, but I didn't have them early. I had them late, right? So I had to go back and watch. After he talked to me, I had to go back and watch Rourke. He was the same way, not really understanding the importance of timing and having your feet in line and all these different things. And then he got better as the season went on, quarterback of the year. And so what he said to me was, listen, firstly, Fernando's going to be all right. He's had a great week of practice. And this is always how it starts. And I'm like, what do you mean? Explain, It's like, well, every quarterback, every single time at every place I've been, we get the quarterback and starts soft. He's not that great, doesn't really get it, and it takes him a little bit to understand how we do things. And then they win quarterback of the year. And I'm sitting back because I still got the Old Dominion game in my mind, but he's so convincing. Like, it's like, I have to believe you, I guess. And, every coach after a bad game, they says quarterback's had the best week of practice he's ever had, right? So then coordinator comes in, speaks kind of the same way as far as he's had a great week of practice. And then we get in the game, and I'm just like, they were completely right. Now, this is Kennesaw State, but this is transferable.
But it's the process.
This is his feet and eyes. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you're playing if you understand the process.
Yeah.
Right now, will things happen a little faster against better competition? Absolutely. But the thing that he struggled with against a bad team, and well, I wouldn't say bad team, but an inferior team in Old Dominion, he's not struggling with now. So that's encouraging. Then he goes on and wins the Heisman, right? And so Signe said it, every quarterback wins quarterback of the year, and Rourke did it a year ago, and this year he went to the ultimate prize of a Heisman Trophy winner. So it's possible, but it's going to be up to
Yeah.
Bryce to be diligent. It's 100% going to be up to
Yeah.
Bryce to be diligent because I think he's going to have the guys in place to really help him reach the heights that we think he can reach, and he certainly believes he can reach.
So I want to ask you one thing here, and then we'll take a break and we'll move on to more topics for the general team. But obviously, Bryce is the topic, and Dev's been our leader throughout the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, last year, Mikey Keene, we now know, was hurt the entire year. Davis Warren obviously hurt. Jaden Davis, clearly it just didn't look like that was ever going to work. But now you look at the transfer portal: Keene gone, Davis gone, Davis Warren gone, Jaden Davis gone. So, like, does Michigan? I mean, you need to go out and get some competition, right? Like, are you of the opinion that Bryce needs someone to push him? Like, how do you view that? How beneficial would
I
that
think
be?
you should, because I don't think you can say we don't want him to think that he's not the guy. I don't think he's done enough to even garner that cachet, right? I think you absolutely have to get a guy that can compete and not a guy that's just some old guy that's going to help. I want a guy that wants to play, right? You should get a guy that wants to play. And Bryce, I believe, because of the competitor he is, that will be the biggest help to help his game go to the next level. Because now it's not an option to do what you want because you'll be on the bench watching. You have money in your pocket, but you'll be watching, right? I'm just telling you, Whittingham is not beholden to people. I'm sorry, because he was already retired, right? So if players leave and people are mad at him, he's not gonna care. Like, what? I was done anyway. This is extra. All this is extra, right? And so I think he'll come in with a bit of an iron fist to say, listen, you will compete for the job, and I don't care how much money you're making. I'm not going to be here for the long while. I'm here for a little while, not a long time, right? I am here to make sure this program is disciplined and we win football games right now. And if I don't think you're the best guy to do it, somebody else has got to do it, right? And so I believe that is the thing, the kind of the secret sauce of how to get Bryce to do things the right way. Because if there's no real threat, what's the motivation to do things the right way? If I'm always just going to go back out there, if there's nobody to replace me, I mean, why would I do better? I got millions of dollars in my pocket. I'm the starter at Michigan. I'm living good. What is there to make me improve? Well, one thing for a real competitor is the threat of someone else having your job. No matter how much money you got in your pocket, you want to play. A.J. McCarron is a perfect example, and I know this is kind of unrelated, even though he does the Alabama show. A.J. McCarron could have been in the NFL making a lot more money as a backup. He chose to play in the UFL or XFL because he wanted to play, right? So it's like, hey, I know I'm going to make $3-4 million, right? He would have been high-level backup, $3-4 million, whatever. But I want to play football. I don't want to keep watching, right? My kids are young. I want my kids to see me play. The competitor wants to play. And if a guy is cool with just making money and not playing, that's probably not the guy you want. I'm just telling you. It's not the guy you want. And so I think that's the secret sauce for Bryce. Get a guy that can truly compete, right? Who wants to play, and let him duke it out. Let him duke it out, and the best player will play, and that'll be the best thing for Michigan, period.
You know, this is where, like, to the viewers at home, like, football, it's uncomfortable. A lot of it's psychological, and a healthy amount of fear is definitely a great engine to force you to focus and be at your best every day. I mean, it's just competition brings out the best in everybody. And I was thinking about this too. JJ McCarthy, there's zero panic in Bryce. I mean, as an 18-year-old freshman with the weight put on his shoulders, if we looked at it from that standpoint, I would say, hey, he did pretty darn good. But there's a higher standard because of what he's capable of. And we're never going to say good enough for Bryce, because I know he has bigger goals. He wants to go to the NFL. He wants to play a decade. He wants to have a ton of success. So what we're talking about here is from the frame of that perspective. And I thought about this one thing, and we'll switch. The work was never an issue. You were told Bryce was there till 11 o'clock, midnight every single day. But the problem is if you're spending extra hours on things without the right intention, then it sucks, but you're wasting your time. but extra hours with proper intention and measured progress, all of a sudden you can achieve greatness. So he's got the makeup, he's got the DNA, and I think we're all excited for the future. But we'll step aside for our first break here. Got to talk about some of the other names in the portal. What's the latest news going on with Michigan football? We'll see you guys here after a brief break. All right, welcome back into the Blueprint. Just because it's the off season, we still want to hold you guys accountable. Keep hitting that like button and that subscribe button. Share with your friends. It's been an awesome season, explosive growth. We're really, really grateful for you guys. Dev, I want to talk about some of these staff hires. Start with the coordinators. Jason Beck comes over from Utah, spent some time there, was also at New Mexico, which we'll get into in a second, where you were first introduced to him. The quarterbacks coach is Koy Detmer. That's expected, I believe, as of right now, but highly trending. Jim Harding, the offensive line coach, really, really good hire. Really good hire. They've put together some dominant offensive lines, put a lot of guys into the NFL. On the defensive side, it's Jay Hill coming over from BYU. He played at Utah under Coach Witt. Actually was a head coach when he went down a few levels, I believe, at Weber State, but has a ton of experience, also did it as a player. Those are some of the key hires. I did want to just ask you, Dev, and kind of give you the floor. You spent time with Coach Beck and Coach Detmer, so you kind of got some experience into their philosophy and process when it comes to offense to the quarterback. What stood out to you?
So I really want to just, because, all the other coaches, everything's cool. Everybody, we can talk about that at some point. The most important coaches are these two, right?
Yes.
Detmer and Beck. Because the most important person on this roster is who? Bryce Underwood, period. Right, so that's what we're going to talk about here. Jason Beck, he's been coaching for 19 years, right? 15 of those years, and I'm going to outline a couple things just to kind of lead me to, so just to give you a little precursor to understand why I think these are two really good hires for Bryce Underwood, even though Detmer is not super advanced. He hasn't been in the game for a very long time, but he has a unique background that's going to really, I think, allow him to help the development of Bryce Underwood, right? So 19 years coaching for Beck. 15 of those years, he's been either the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, right? Right. So pretty much the whole time, right? He's always been a guy who's worked closely with the quarterbacks, even when he was a coordinator. This year, like we just talked about, Koy Detmer Jr. is a quarterback coach, right? So that should alert something to you. A guy who's always done it one way, and he says, you know what? I think he's ready. I think the young guy's ready, and we should trust that, right? So for Koy Detmer, there are three things that are really important. He's Koy Detmer's son, right, who played in the NFL, and Ty Detmer's nephew, right? And so these are two guys, essentially in his household, he's got 20-plus years of pro experience, right? 20-plus years of seeing a pro do it. You understand this? And then he's basically Jason Beck's paralegal for 3 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows what a paralegal is, right? The lawyer is the lawyer, right? So Beck was the lawyer all the time, but the paralegal's really doing all the work, right? The paralegal is making sure all the tedious details are followed and things, and creating the arguments and doing the research and doing all this work. They just don't get paid like the lawyer, right? And so I think that's what Koy Detmer Jr. was to Beck for all these years, right? The fact that he has seen NFL quarterbacks in his household really help him be able to truly coach a Bryce Underwood, right? So because he's not enamored with his talent. He's already seen 2 pro quarterbacks, right? He understands what it looks like. He's not enamored with, oh, he's just so talented. I don't want to anger him. He knows what it takes. He's seen it done, right? He's been coached. He wanted to be one as well. And so now you have a different kind of approach where you can truly help someone because you're not afraid to coach him. And I think that's super important. But in 2022, he was a GA at Syracuse with Beck. 2023, he's with Beck, quality control or offensive analyst or whatever you want to call that. He's an offensive analyst again at New Mexico, and this is where I come into contact with Beck. Not necessarily Detmer, just because he was an analyst, so we don't meet with those guys. But you get a chance to talk with Beck, who spoke highly of Detmer helping to develop a Devin Dampier. Right. And I was obviously the first guy on Devin Dampier because I had his game against Montana State. And I'm just like, this guy is so impressive. And I was very high on them getting him at Utah. And I didn't even realize the connection of like, oh, well, that's why, because he knows exactly who this kid is. Right. So he helped develop Devin that year, 2024. Then obviously moves on to Houston. I mean, not Houston, Utah, with Coach Beck as an offensive analyst, specifically with the QBs, right? And so after all that tutelage, right, all that time being a paralegal, Beck really trusts him to be the guy, to have his own room, which I think is so important. Now you got two quarterbacks, two former quarterbacks who have studied quarterbacking, who understand quarterbacks, helping a young, developing quarterback, right? So there are three words that I kind of jotted down here that I think are so important to remember as we go through this journey with Bryce Underwood and with the Michigan football team. Alignment, trust, and understanding, right? Alignment, trust, and understanding. Let's talk about alignment first. Beck and Detmer speak the same language. They've been together. There will be no dissension. There will be no, I want it this way, but I thought you want it this way. There will be no confusion, which means that's rock solid. For who? Bryce Underwood. There will be no questions on the details on what I want to see on or what Bryce needs to do. We are on the same page. We speak the same language. There will be no confusion. There will be no excuse as to why Bryce can't reach his potential. And then trust, right? Everybody knows a coordinator that's also the quarterback coach for 15 years of his 19 years coaching. You certainly have a stranglehold on what the quarterback does. However, a trust has been built, right? Where he doesn't have to micromanage Detmer, right? He can allow him to go freely and help a young quarterback develop and input whenever he wants, right? Sprinkling his input, but he can focus on developing the offense and also sprinkling input all around the offense, not just the quarterback, right? So that trust, I think, is so important in those years as a paralegal for Detmer, has earned that trust, and I think that's going to be huge for Michigan in that quarterback room. And then understanding. I've talked about this all year. It's almost impossible. Almost impossible. Nah, nothing's impossible, but it's almost impossible for a non-quarterback to understand what's going on in the mind of a developing quarterback. It's almost impossible, dude. You can study it all you want. If you've never been in that fire, you've never strapped it on and known that every single person on this roster is depending on me. And when I snap that ball, my heart is pounding. No matter how much preparation I've ever had, it still feels new every single time. If you don't understand that feeling of, I know I wasn't supposed to do that, but I still did it and I can't figure out why. If you've never been in that fire, it's very hard to understand how he thinks, what's going on in his mind. And if you can't understand that, how can you possibly help him? Right? And it's very important to understand. It's similar to a lawyer or a surgeon. If I'm a lawyer, if I'm becoming a lawyer, if you're becoming a lawyer, Jake, would you want a guy who's never been in the courtroom arguing to teach you to be a lawyer?
Nope.
Absolutely not. If I'm a surgeon, would you want somebody that's never worn that white coat and had the sweat dripping down and having to deal with the scalp? I don't know what they do in the surgeon room, but it's something very specific. Would you want somebody who hasn't been in that fire, that is a real fire, somebody's life is on the line, would you want them teaching you to be a surgeon?
Nope.
So why would you not want somebody that's been in the fire doing what I think is one of the hardest things in the world to do, become a adequate, talented quarterback? Why wouldn't you want somebody that's already been through that process and understands it, right? Yeah. So the experience you gain becoming a quarterback or being a quarterback allows you to help a talent like Bryce Underwood not only avoid possible self-inflicted landmines, which we've seen, right? Self-inflicted landmines, not understanding footwork, all these different things, not knowing coverage. Those are things you can avoid. But you also can help him to understand how difficult the position is. And we've seen he doesn't quite yet get how difficult it is, because when we have success, all the fundamentals go out the window, right? The ones that we do have, they go out of the window because we feel like we've reached the mountaintop. And that's just not the case. You allow him to understand the importance of every single, let me reiterate, every single detail. There are no details that can go overlooked. Everything is the most important thing when you're playing quarterback, and understanding why I do things, how they need to be done, and how can I get to success.
Yeah.
Right. So all that is directly correlated with good quarterback play. And because of these reasons, I think that these two guys in concert together are perfect for the situation that they're going to with a talented Bryce Underwood. And I would like to be completely clear. I think Koy Detmer is ready. Even though he's young, even though he's never had his own room, I think that, like I said, his time as a paralegal under Beck, the fact that Beck trusts him enough to give him his own room, finally, I think that should be enough. And I think this is really going to show us, is Bryce what we thought he could be? Is
Mm-hmm.
Bryce who he thinks he is? Is Bryce what the recruiting services said he was going to be? And I think we'll see it fairly quickly. All right, it's not going to be, oh, he's young when we get this time next year and say, oh, he's young. No. Sophomores pop. I'm sorry. Sophomores pop. And when you have good coaches, right, in alignment with your coaching staff, I think it's very clear you have the opportunity to pop on a level that the country should be scared of. And
Yeah.
if not, maybe he's just not the guy.
Look, I'm in complete agreement. It would be true for offensive line. It'd be true for tight ends. It's true for every position. I think that's what made Jim such a great coach is, Jim Harbaugh, whatever he asked of the team, you knew he did it himself. He walked the walk himself first. And that's really important because there's just an inherent respect. So during those times when the coach needs to be critical of Bryce knows, oh, wait, he's speaking from a place of experience himself, and it comes from a good organic place. That's just beneficial. And
as much as you should listen to your coaches, no matter what, he's a human. I'm a human. If I see a guy that's never done it and he's yelling at me, trying to get me to do something, like, you don't even know. You don't know the pressure I'm under. You don't get it, right? And so obviously you don't say that back to the coach, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you don't understand that this defensive end has just got outside of me and he is so strong and so powerful and I'm a tight end and you don't really understand the pressure that the tight end's under if you've never been in that position. You don't understand what the cornerback is under when he's in cover 3 but he's supposed to drive on that, and you just don't get it if you haven't done it as much. Now, is it impossible to not get it? No, you can learn it and whatever, but I think that quarterback position is too important to have a guy that heard about how difficult it is to play quarterback. They need to know and feel how difficult it is.
And another thing you said is the alignment. And again, I know I keep talking about Cignetti, but like that's the standard. If you have standards of competing and winning championships, then you have to look to the best. And the thing with Cignetti is his staff was extremely intentional. The staff is aligned with Cignetti's vision and his standard, and they trust one another. Whittingham's staff, you can see his fingerprints all over the staff. Whittingham trusts the coordinators and play callers and the position coaches, and the position coaches trust up the line from their coordinators and their head coach as well. And I think that's really important because the best teams are coached the best, and that comes from having alignment and standards top down. Now, this pivots to the transfer portal philosophy, okay? And again, I look at Indiana. They're not playing a ton of underclassmen. They clearly have a philosophy of playing experienced, proven players. So when you have good coaches, those experienced, proven players have walked the walk first. It's easy for them to grasp, which allows them to execute at high pressure situations. So let's look at Michigan right now. They've lost recruits. They've lost players to the portal, haven't quite replenished it yet. They're not the worst team. They're not the best team, but there has to be a sense of urgency. So another thing, and this helps Bryce, it brings everything home. Dev, the guys I'm looking at is you have offensive lineman in Andrew Sprague, a tackle. Doesn't look like a first-round pick, would start at every major program in college football. Jake Guarnera, the guy that played right guard. Maybe not a first-round pick, but a guy that would start. Both those guys have NFL potential. They're both in the portal right now. Cole Sullivan, linebacker. That guy has a chance to be an All-American. I mean, he is a stud. And I look at this and I say, for Michigan, you have to prioritize keeping those guys because you need veteran experienced players on this roster to complement what we just said about the staff. And here's another, I was researching this and I find this really interesting, Dev, about the academic wall with Michigan. Like, how does it play a factor? Does it not? Well, it does when it comes to your ability of maintaining veteran players. So for Michigan, Michigan still requires a nearly 100% course equivalence, which means Michigan's really unable to bring in third or fourth year upperclassmen. They need to prioritize grad transfers. That's really the only, other schools like an Oregon or a Washington or a Florida, whoever, they don't have that same problem. So I say that again to say when you have Andrew Sprague with experience, Gardner with experience, Cole Sullivan, you have to keep these guys because you're not going to get an equivalent in the portal because of the academic standards and the academic wall that Michigan has recruiting. So if we want to help Bryce, you need an offensive line. If you want to win at the highest level, you need proven linebackers. Right now, Michigan, I think the biggest priority in the transfer portal, Dev, is securing these guys. And I think another thing, you got to send a message to the rest of college football. Like when you have a talented player, they stay in Ann Arbor. Heaven forbid we see Cole Sullivan playing for Ohio State next fall. I think I'd be sick, or Indiana. So what's your thoughts, Dev, on just like the bigger picture of the portal right now? I don't think it's time to panic, but I don't feel great seeing two of the projected starters and one of the best linebackers in the conference in the portal. I think you need to keep them in Ann Arbor.
Well, yeah, I certainly need to, but I guess it has to be a conversation of why are you in the portal, right? You'd figure that out. Why are you in the portal? And whatever the reason is, I need more money, or the Cerrone situation, whatever the case, fix it. And that is not up to us, not up to you, it's not up to Jake. It's up to you. Took the job, you fix it. You figure out how those three guys in particular stay in Ann Arbor, because now you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. Because even though you may get somebody talented, maybe not as talented, but you'll get somebody talented maybe. You're Michigan, right? You got some money. You'll get somebody talented to play off the line from the portal, right? And then guess what? While Bryce is still trying to improve with live bullets, these guys will be trying to get on the same accord. And Michigan just doesn't have time for that, right? The schedule is difficult next year. You don't have time to wait for because you can't really – practice is great. But there's nothing like those live bullets, the real thing, right? And so you're basically going to be on a crash course in the beginning of the season trying to figure out who you are and understand if Bryce has taken the necessary steps, because Bryce is going to look good in practice. I'm just telling you, he's going to, right? But when the bullets are flying live and it's hot and that fire is burning, then you start to revert back to the things you naturally are, right? And so we won't know if Bryce has fully gotten to where he needs to be until we see him with those live bullets. And if he's going against those live bullets in that fire without a loaded gun, like it's difficult. It's difficult. You need these guys to continue to take the next steps as an offensive line to allow him to continue to take the next steps. So I think that you nailed it. It's of the utmost importance. The priority should be extremely high, especially those offensive linemen. Cole Sullivan, of course, because he's such a great player, you do want to, but you can get linebackers to play, because as much as playing in concert as linebackers is important, if one linebacker's great, other linebacker's great, they're not really working together, they can still be great, and the defense can be all right. But if one offensive lineman and another offensive lineman aren't working in concert, we've talked about it throughout the season, if they aren't on the same page, they don't understand each other's language, all that stuff, which is built through time spent on task together, if they don't have that, you don't have a chance. You really don't. You just don't. I don't care how talented individually they may be. If they haven't worked together, you just don't have a real chance. And so this is for Bryce, right? It's for Michigan, but it's for Bryce, which is also for Michigan, right? It's all correlated, right? So those linemen are the top priority, and obviously you want to try to keep Sullivan as well.
I look at Indiana and Oregon, the two teams from the Big Ten, and both those teams lost thousands of snaps on the offensive line of experience from 2024 to 2025. They both lost a ton of experience. They replaced it with more experience. It's very clear to me, NFL, college, when you look at the best teams, it's built from the trenches out. And then when the trenches are in place, it allows your quarterbacks to thrive. And again, I brought up that point for academics because I don't think you're going to just easily. I mean, there was a lot of guys that Michigan brought in the portal. Sprague started over him. Gardner started over him. Blake Frazier was a guy that ended up starting at left tackle. Michigan has a chance to have one of the better offensive lines in college football, but you got to prioritize bringing those guys back. Cole Sullivan is a key piece of a front seven, front six, because I believe it's a 4-2-5 defense with Coach Hill. They're going to need to reload there on the defensive side. So when you have someone that's proven, you got to prioritize bringing him back. And then there's one more guy there's been whispers, Andrew Marsh, that he's considered entering the portal. I don't know.
Andrew Marsh wants more money, pay him.
Pay him.
That's essentially what it
Pay
is.
him,
Pay
period.
him.
He's
Pay
earned
him.
it.
Pay him.
He has a chance to be the
He's outperformed whatever you were paying him. Pay him.
Colston Loveland was the first non-quarterback skill position. It was JJ, but Colston Loveland was the first skill position from Michigan on the offensive side of the ball to go in the first round since Braylon Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Marsh has that potential. You don't let a guy like that walk. You don't.
There's no more conversation. Pay him. Pay him whatever he's asking. Now, if he's asking for $10 million or something like that, obviously you can't do it. But I don't think he's doing that. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever he's asking for, you give it to him, and you expect that he'll only improve because from what I've heard and what I've seen from him, he's a worker and he's only going to get better. And if he's going to get better from what we just saw, pay him 100%.
Pay him.
And you talked about how you build your team from the trenches out. And I was talking to a coach this past season, and I can't remember who it was, but he said this, and it really stuck with me. Like, obviously, you're building the offense and defensive lines, right? And then you build out. But he said when a team has down the middle, right? So maybe a dominant 3 nose or 3 technique, right? Dominant linebacker, dominant safety, right? Dominant center, quarterback, running back. Those teams are outstanding. And I would want to go and like look through the great teams in history and like what down the middle did that look like? Safety, linebacker, interior defensive lineman, center, quarterback, running back. Like what did that look like? And I would imagine that when you go through all the championship teams throughout the history, that is intact, right?
Look at Michigan. Their 3 best years: Remington, center, great quarterback, great running backs, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham. I mean, look at Michigan.
I think there's something to it, right? And so get that, obviously build that offense and defensive line, get that down the middle of the offense and defense intact, and then start to build around that, and I think you'll have a real shot.
Yeah. It's there's a lot to be excited about here in Ann Arbor. I think Michigan, I mean, to go out and get a coach in Whittingham, and he seems inspired and energized. The staff is, Dev just broke it down for you, especially for Bryce's development. A ton to be excited about there. And again, now the priority, now the switch gets flipped to, okay, the dominoes are following. Bryce is back. You've got some other guys back, but there's some other guys in the portal that Michigan has to secure, as well as they still need to fill in spots through the portal. So it's an arms race. It is a war right now. You don't win a national title without the roster these days.
Yeah,
and
you just don't.
There's no time to wait for talented freshmen with a ton of potential. That can't be the core makeup of your team. It just can't. You need guys ready to win now. It's extremely clear to me. So
yeah, that P word is going to get everybody fired.
The what?
That P word is going to get everybody fired.
Potential.
It's going to get everybody fired. So we need to stop leaning on that. Got to stop leaning on the potential, right? And there shouldn't be a ton of conversation of, we're just so young. Well, how long are you going to be young? Right? How long are you going to be? You know what I mean? Like all these young freshmen, they played an entire season, like a full season of football. They are grown men, right? And it's up to them, along with the coaches, to develop and become pros, right? And when I say pros, I mean perform like pros at this level. And I don't think there's really any excuse at this point, right? I feel like that everything is in place. Everybody got a proven coach. There's really no excuse as to why you can't have the ultimate success next year, even with a difficult schedule.
Yeah. If college is going to the NFL model, no one says you're young in the NFL. It's just, hey, man, we're paying you, standard or not. If you don't meet the standard, we're going to find someone else. I mean, it is cutthroat. So
and they also say you're young,
paid,
and then the coach gets fired. Like, oh, yeah, we're young. You can't figure it out. We'll get somebody else to figure out with these young guys. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
So people lose their jobs because of the potential.
Yeah.
That potential where, it's disgusting.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us, man. Dev, that was great stuff. You guys, please just throw some love and show some love down in the comments. I know I'm excited about the future for Bryce. I would love to hear from you guys. What stood out to you about this episode? What your favorite parts were? And maybe some moves. What do you guys want to see there in the transfer portal? We'd love to hear from you. But regardless, another great show, man. First one of the new year. It was a great 2025 with you guys. Let's make 2026 even better. Hit that like button, that subscribe button, and send with your friends and family. We really appreciate you here on The Blueprint. We'll see you guys next week for next week's episode.